Pastor Raphael Thomas, Pastor Ray Thomas. Pastor Ray, man of God, he was a king. He was a king and a kingmaker. He was a gentleman, brilliant man. He used to call himself a country preacher, but he was more than that. He was the best preacher I've ever heard preach the word. Matter of fact, he was the best preacher. He remains my favorite preacher as well. I mean, the way he could cut and deliver the word in a way full of energy and life, and how fervent he was in delivering the word, and how he could recite scriptures for any topic. He was able to recite scriptures and speak to the issues straight on. An amazing, amazing man of God. I mean, man, I was so honored to really just shake his hand as a kid. I mean, he was like bigger than life to me. I was short and he was like a giant. Now I'm taller than him. Today I'm taller than him. But back then he was a giant to me when I first met him, and so impressed with him. My grandmother, who I consider, she was my second mom, Mother Veneta Austin. She thought he was a dynamic. He was her favorite preacher. Pastor Ray was Mother Veneta Austin's favorite preacher. She would love to hear him preach, and was getting excited when this young man came to preach, Elder Thomas. He came to preach, and he had an opportunity to preach at Liberty Street. Man, it was a joy. It was pure joy to hear him. He got me excited about coming to church. He had something to say that was uplifting and biblical, and it was the word of God, which we know is sharper than any two-edged sword. So he was slicing and dicing and dancing. And I know one person likes to say that he did his James Brown impression, but he had them cowboy boots and he would work it. And then there was a time when I went to run for mayor, and years later, maybe before I ran for mayor, I would go and I'd visit Pastor Ray, and he would educate me on the city of South Bend. And it seemed like we were interacting on a few boards. I know he was heavy into the Human Rights Commission, heavy into that, one of his passions. And was teaching me about the city and about generally like life in general, even in the city of South Bend. So I returned to South Bend right after graduate school and to take care of my mom, to be a caregiver for my mother, ended up being a caregiver for my mother and my father. And Pastor Ray was speaking to my life, man, because it was such an enormous strain on me. It's a lot of pressure as an only child. But he took on the role of a big brother, man, a father figure, big brother. And I could talk to him about pretty much anything. So when the opportunity presented itself to run for mayor of South Bend around 2011, I went ahead and, I tried not to run, and to ask Mayor Lickey, do you have to move on? And he said, I'm not running. So I ran. And when I ran, it seems as though I'm one of the few people who really understood the historic nature of a black person running for mayor in the city of South Bend after the first black person ran for mayor 40 years prior to that. He was one of the few. And when I came to him, he was one of those leaders in the city that said, man, you should run, and I'm going to support you. So when I ran my commercials on the radio, I needed somebody to be the voice, and he was the voice of my campaign. Yeah, Pastor Ray. He believed in me. He believed in supporting a young black man who was committed to serving black people. Yeah. I thought that was courageous in a sense, because so many of the black leaders, so many black people didn't really align themselves with me. Right? But he did, even when others were on the fence. He was a courageous man. He was a leader's leader. And I'm thankful to be able to have him as what I like to consider a mentor. And then I met this wonderful woman. She's beautiful. It's not like I met her. I mean, I knew her. I knew her from when she was younger than I, when we were in church together. But I was in the back of the church, and I was in the back of the church. Pastor Ray had invited me to come by and speak to the congregation about my campaign. And And I remember this glow on this beautiful, gorgeous woman, had on these black heels and this beautiful long dress, and I think it was white with black polka dots, and had a beautiful smile, and she was gorgeous. And it was Pastor Ray's daughter. And I remember me going back and asking Pastor Ray, I said, man, what's up with your daughter? And he said, she thinking. I said, man, she thinking. Let me know when she not took. It was from that moment that Pastor Ray and I started to solidify our bond, because I wanted to be closer to him, because I wanted to get closer to his daughter. I mean, I wanted him to see that I was a good dude, man. I'm a good dude. Come on, brother. Anyway, so he ended up performing our wedding, just the 5 of us. We didn't want to have a big wedding. We did a private wedding ceremony, and it was overlooking the St. Joe River in a flower garden. And it was Pastor Ray officiated the wedding, and my new wife, Rachel, and our mothers were the witnesses, and was so honored. Before he performed the wedding, I had to go and ask him for his request of him, his permission, his blessing to marry this beautiful, beautiful woman, Rachel. And I remember sitting down in the house, and, you know, I don't know if Rachel even knew what I was about to do. I can't remember if she knew or not, but I was going to do it. And I remember me sitting there and asking him for his blessing. And, you know, I kind of knew he would, but you never know till they say yes. And he gave us his blessing. That was a momentous day. That was a great day. It was an awesome day. I could say so many things about this man. I mean, he was a giver. He always was willing to give. This man worked and retired at 50. He did 30 years at the bank, retired to go serve as a full-time pastor of a big little church, Faith Temple, because he wanted to make God smile. He was committed and passionate about fulfilling his call. He was the people's champion. He championed the people, the little guys. I mean, if you look throughout the city of South Bend, St. Joe County, there's so many people who benefited from his role as a banker in the city. They were able to get loans for their businesses. They were able to get their finances situated. They were able to really plan for their future, because Pastor Ray was pastoral. He was pastoral in how he was a banker in his professional life. So much so that people would come up to the bank because they wanted to talk about the issues that had nothing to do with like me, I'm one of them, had nothing to do with banking, but just they want to be in the presence of his brilliance, his wisdom, and get his sage advice. He was that kind of leader. He was the community leader for the city of South Bend. I like to say that Pastor Ray was the unofficial pastor, unofficial mayor of city of South Bend. So many instances there. He touched every community regardless of socioeconomic class, race, ethnicity. He had friends everywhere. You know, it was amazing how you mentioned his name in the city of South Bend, St. Joseph County, that no matter who, regardless of who they were, they knew him well. Yeah. I remember I was having a conversation in the office of the bank president, First Source, the bank president, and I mentioned Pastor Ray and how he had nothing but awesome things to say about Ray Thomas. I'm like, man, who is this guy, Pastor Ray? And so, yeah, he's an icon. He's an icon. And he'll be greatly missed.